Well, I mean, as an actress, I'm not a producer or a director, so I sort of step into somebody else's ideas. But the women who have been directors have been largely, they've had a really rough time breaking in our business, and I'm not entirely sure. I have my theories why that is. A lot of it has to do with imagination. And this act of empathy that women go through from the time we're little girls, we read all of literature, all of history. It's really about boys, most of it. But I can feel more like, Peter Pan than Tinkerbell. I just, or Wendy, or any of the, I wanted to be Tom Sawyer, not Becky. I thought about, and we're so used to that act of empathizing with the protagonist of a male-driven plot. I mean, that's what we've done all our lives. You read history, you read great literature, Shakespeare, it's all fellas, So, but they've never had to do the other thing. And the hardest thing for me as an actor is to have a story that men in the audience feel like they know what I feel like. That's a really hard thing. It's very hard for them to put themselves in the shoes of a female protagonist. It just is, this is known to the studios. They know it's the toughest suit of clothes to wear. For heterosexual men, I will.
I wonder,
I like to make men uncomfortable. I enjoy making men uncomfortable. Not you, just
not you. Not you.
Point taken, point taken.
But, it is important to be able to look into the eyes of a man and say, I am here, and recognize that. And recognize that I am working to bring something that makes you uncomfortable, and it should make you uncomfortable because you need to change your attitude. And it's only when you're uncomfortable, when you're shifty, when you have to have difficult conversations that you will perhaps look at yourself in the mirror and not like the reflection. And then say, maybe there is something wrong with the way I think, or maybe there is something wrong with the way I am addressing this issue. So I'll tell you, last year, I began working on a television show that brought stories like this in Pakistan, and men were uncomfortable with some of the issues that we were talking about, extremely uncomfortable, but they started having those difficult conversations. And I think that if more men and women started doing that, looking, in the eyes of people and saying, well, this is the reality, accept it. I come from a country which sometimes thinks that I'm a traitor because I talk about issues that shouldn't be talked about, that these are the issues that should be swept under the carpet. So you will see a lot of rants about me on social media, and that is part and parcel of who I am, and sometimes that used to bother me. But one day I realized that it should be my strength, not my weakness. And the reason it should be my strength is because obviously I am making someone very uncomfortable. And it's only when you make someone uncomfortable that they're forced to tweet about you, So I think that's important. And I now put all the naysayers to one side because I know I have a mission. And I know what I want to do. And those voices, their volume just needs to be toned down.
When I was in college and all the colleges were female or male, and there was a big choice, we could join with Yale. I was at Vassar, but we'd have to go to their campus, we'd have to basically eviscerate our institution. And nobody wanted to do it, but basically the men, there was never any question that they would abandon New Haven. It was just
they would never be asked.
Going to a woman's college was a step down, and going to a man's college was a step up for the
It's
women.
interesting you say that, because I went to Smith, and the men came to Smith.
Well, the women came to Vassar too, and they still do, you know. And but the world is better.
I guess the point is,
No, I'm
you
just.
really should go to Columbia. I just think that
No, the world is coeducational, thank God, except in many parts of it. So, you know, this is an old fight. But why are we lesser?
I mean, when you get into ideas of art and activism, I think for me, you know, I really feel that when a woman makes a film, that is a radical act in and of itself, regardless of what, what is being, you know, idea of inserting ourselves in an image where we've been absent. I feel the same about people of color who are creating images and, you know, and making sure that they're seen. And so, you know, yes, you can look at Selma and say it's a film with an activist spirit, but I mean, certainly, you know, the very act of, I mean, she could have made a documentary about picking flowers. You should make it. But, you know, her act of the art making is activism in and of itself. And I like to think of, so I don't like to think of the work I do as being above, not above, but more activated and more political than another woman making, you know, the romantic comedy. It's all essential, it's vital. When we're absent, you know, we're absent, you know, and so our very presence is our political statement, in my view. Yeah. As a woman who's made 3 narrative feature films and a handful of docs, you know, we, you know, still have to start again from zero every time.
Right.
And whereas, you know, my white male counterparts don't have to start from zero every time. To be let in is to just know what you're doing 2 years from now, because you know there's going to be something else there. Mm-hmm. And for women filmmakers, that's not the case. Mm-hmm. Now, what do you do with that? I love the idea of, you know, self-determining and not asking for permission, not waiting for anyone to say, this is what you're doing 2 years from now. I love what Meryl's just done in funding a lab for screenwriting women over 40 who can be, you know, self-determined in what they're doing. Fist bump. You know, I love the idea of, you know, this sister going out, you know, in places that we would never go and putting a camera. I mean, as I just watched that footage, I was like, where's the camera? And are you all safe as you record this, you know, and doing those things without permission. And so ultimately, it's not about the architecture around what we do or the industry around what we do. It's about what we do.
It's just
and it has
not
to
stopping,
continue,
right.
It has to continue to be done without waiting for who's letting us in or who's keeping us out. Yeah.
well, I want to thank all of you. It's